Stand at your close. Good. Welcome to the first Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta. We are a philosophically based spiritual community founded on existentialist and feminist principles, and we make our home in this beautiful building that was built over 100 years ago by the Antioch East Baptist Church, a community of African Americans that were forced out of the area because of racial injustice. And we are now the wonderful keepers of this space. And we're very fortunate that we have that opportunity to be so. Also, this land was at one time inhabited by the Muscogee Creek people. They too, as indigenous people, were forced off of their land, and we honor and respect and wish justice for all indigenous people.
Hi, Marcia, we have a child here today.
Excuse me?
We have a child here. Like candles?
And a what?
Child,
A child
young
like
person.
candles.
a young person.
Oh, okay. Do you want to come and light a candle for us? Thank you, guys. It took me a while to come up. Like that. In case y'all didn't catch on to that, I have hearing problems, and so it's difficult for me sometimes to understand what people are saying. So if I have to ask you to repeat, please apologize for that, and I hope that you will just tell me what you really said. So, but again, it's great to have you all here today. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and I appreciate the fact that you chose to come and be with us this morning. Today is Father's Day, and I have several quotes that I have picked out. The first is from Craig D. Lonsborough. The call of fatherhood is in fact a call of sacrifice, not in some heroic sense where a father is lifted high on some glowing pedestal with all his sacrifices held up to the awe of those around him. Rather, it is a call that will cost him all that he has, that will be absent of accolades, where rewards will be sparse, and where he will someday find himself having spent all, but in spending, having gained everything. And this is the glory of fatherhood. We have a wonderful accompanying us this morning, Mr. Craig Refuge. Craig, can you tell us, please, where our first song will be?
Yes, in the new songbook, Teach Your Children. It's alphabetical. And I will tell you, today would have been my dad's 150th birthday. And he was a YMCA professional. His gig was teaching children. Training, in a way. You know, in the wonderful YMCA way. I grew up in all that. Teach your children.
You sound wonderful. So again, let me welcome you to the first Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta. Wonderful to have you all here this morning. If we have any community announcements, if you would please write those down and bring those forward to me, and I will read them out. There are table back there, so you can do that. Also, in your, you'll find in your program, I had it somewhere, you have an insert in your program, so you'll pay attention to that. Do we have any newcomers this morning who would like to stand and tell us your name and how you came to be here? All right, our wonderful light, candle lighter. Yes. What is your name?
Alice?
Hi, this is Alice, and I'm Lucia. This is my dad and her grandfather.
How did y'all come to be here this morning?
I'm sorry?
How did you come to be here this morning?
With my dad.
Because you just came with him?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yes.
Yeah, Alice wanted to come because I've been talking about it, and so we thought, hey, if it's ever going to be comfortable, it's going to be comfortable this time. So thank you all for being who you are.
That's great. Thank you. Yes.
Brandon?
Oh, Peter.
Okay, and how did y'all come to be here?
I got a flyer on the street at some point, and I began to come ever since.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, I live in it.
You'll notice in the bulletin that you have, there's a little script called a connection card. If you would like to receive our weekly e-blast and monthly newsletter, you can fill that out. And if you want any other information about it, about us, you can let us know, and we'll be glad to get back in touch with you. How about birthdays or anniversaries? Who has a birthday or an anniversary?
Well, actually, I had one.
All right, okay.
But I'm going to play the guitar and we'll sing it, okay? So,
Yes.
on June 5th, I turned 71 years old.
You gotta give us a chord.
So, yes, here we go. That's it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Fred. Happy birthday to you.
Great, thank you. The singer and artist, John Legend, was on the Stephen Colbert late night show in 2017, and he was asked about fatherhood and his children, and he wrote, he said, "They didn't do anything. They just exist, and you love them completely. It's not built on anything other than their existence." I can't think of a better way to describe the feeling of what a parent should feel. So, thank you, John Legend. All right, I think it's time that we have another congregational song. What are we
Okay,
doing
in the
this time?
in the same song, but the new one, Shower the People, James Taylor.
When I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant, I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much he had learned in 7 years. That was written by Mark Twain. And I kind of understand a little bit about Mark Twain. I grew up with a father that was not a touchy-feely, warm kind kind of guy. And we didn't have the greatest relationship as I grew up. However, I never worried if I was going to have food to eat, clothes to wear, a house to live in, or basic things that I needed. He was not abusive, and I feel like he did the best that he could given the time and the place that he grew up. So I think I'm kind of like Mark Twain. I'm astonished at how much I learned about being able to understand and acknowledge and appreciate the father that he was. This month is Pride Month, and tomorrow is Juneteenth. And I hope that everyone has an opportunity to participate in both of these wonderful celebrations, that you will, even if you are not a part of the specific communities, that you are consider yourself to be an ally and a supporter, that you understand the importance of those two celebrations, and that you join in whatever way that you can, because they're both very, very important times for us to celebrate both the LGBTQ plus community and the African Americans and what they went through in terms of trying to accomplish and obtain freedom in this country. A struggle that is still ongoing. I'd like to have a time of silence. This is an opportunity.
Community announcements.
Oh, thank you. Nice to be prompted. All right, we have several. We have, the art opening this coming Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. The artist is Naila Smith. It is free. Please come and enjoy some libations and the wonderful new art that will adorn these beautiful walls. Also, that's on Friday night, and on the following day, Saturday the 24th at 3 p.m. here in the sanctuary, there will be a wonderful celebration by the Antioch East Baptist Church, a comeback musical. Now, Antioch East, if you remember from my beginning, they are the congregation that built this fantastic space. And they are coming back home to have a musical here, going back where the bricks were made. That is presented by the Biracial History Project. It is 3 p.m. next Saturday, June the 24th, right here. I hope that everyone can come. Jan?
I was just wondering, will your music at the art opening?
Yes.
And another wonderful opportunity is after the service today, we're going to have a kiddush. And kiddush means that we're going to eat. One of the things that we love to do around here, singing and eating, that's us. We love to do both. So,
we want to have it outside today since the weather is nice.
Okay.
So we will need some help getting these things, getting the chairs and the tables down.
okie dokie, that's right. So in the side garden, if anyone can, please help us to put out the tables and chairs and carry out the food. We need to appreciate it today. I understand it's supposed to rain tomorrow. So now, anything else I've forgotten? It's so nice to have prompter doctors in the audience. Great, huh? So, now will be a time when we do like to reserve for you to be able to sit quietly, to go within, to pray, meditate, however you choose during this time. It'll be about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and so I'll ring the chimes when it's time to come back into this space. Now it's time for a special part of our service where we hear some words of wisdom, and there's no one better than our speaker today to help pass that along. You can read in your newsletter and the things, all the wonderful accomplishments that Franklin Abbott has done. But I know Franklin to be, personally, that he's kind, he's gentle, he's loving, he loves birds, he loves birds, he loves flowers, he loves his congregation. So I welcome to the stage Franklin Abbott.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. Happy Father's Day. That's probably the most traditional thing that I will say about fathers. I had an odd occurrence happen Friday. I go to a place to get a massage every month or so. It's a little place in Decatur, and it is run by folks from China. It's one of, there are a lot of Asian massage places around town. And a friend of mine recommended, in fact he's back there, Dan Geller, recommended this massage therapist. His name is Tom. And Tom is a great massage therapist. He literally, from the moment, excuse me, that he, this is why I brought this. The moment that he walks into the room, he begins to work, and he works until the bell rings, and he works hard. And he knows the body very well, both from a Western vantage point and from the vantage point of Chinese medicine. So it's inexpensive. I believe that he does not make a lot of money, that if he makes half of what I pay, he's not making a lot of money. Most of that money, I believe, is being sent back to family in China. So I always give a good tip because he does such a good job. So at the end of the massage, I give him his tip in cash. And he's about half my age. He speaks almost no English, and I speak no Chinese. So we don't know anything about each other other than our experience in the massage room. I give him his tip, and he gives it back to me. And he says, "Happy Father's Day." And, that touched me because this is a man who I don't believe has much in the way of resources. And he doesn't know that I am not a father. I don't know what his relationship with his father is, whether his father is still living. But that was such a sweet gesture. So I put the money back in my pocket. And I don't know whether you ever got money like from your grandmother or something like that, and then it was special, and you couldn't just spend it, you had to put it somewhere else. And so I put the money, on my dresser, and I thought, what in the world am I going to do with this money? And then I thought, I put it there. I put it there to honor two of the important people in this congregation's history. When I thought about Lanier Clance, who was the founding minister, the thought of calling him a founding father flitted through my head, and I thought, well, why do we always have to have a founding father? can't we have a guiding light? So I thought about Lanier as a guiding light, and I thought about Robert Stewart and the services dedicated to Robert today.
Yes.
And there are many things that you could say about Robert in terms of being such a wonderful male human being, but I think of him sort of as the hugger in chief. You could always get a hug from Robert if you wanted to. So let me read you a poem I wrote about Robert after his death last year. And get another sip of water. This is all seasons seem to be seasons where my allergies are affecting me nowadays. Robert. I learned this morning that my friend Robert died yesterday. He was taking a walk in his neighborhood, not far from my neighborhood, and collapsed on the sidewalk. He could not be resuscitated. His heart had stopped. It was the middle of the afternoon. Robert and I were friends by association. We were both part of an existentialist, feminist, spiritual community. Robert was straighter than I am gay, but he loved with gusto and loved across the differences. He was a pillar of our community. The tent is sagging with his loss. His dedication held up this little group of eccentrics, friends on the fringes, devoted to social justice. Robert was devoted and an unlikely member. I teased him. We were both Alabama refugees, having grown up in the segregated heart of Dixie. We shared an accent and a sense of humor and a knowing of how wrong racism can go. We were raised in the state that elected George Wallace governor, where bull connors sick dogs and fire hoses on peaceful demonstrators, where 4 little girls died in a church bombing. While we were both teenagers, we had a front row seat. We knew evil was evil. Robert was a member of the board or a committee. He was always on one or both, who would invite me to speak at the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta, and often on less than desirable dates. A holiday weekend, the day after Christmas. He knew I was likely to say yes. During COVID, he filmed me with his phone in my garden. As an audience of one, he was the best. He was the best I could hope for or imagine. Robert was present. He was my age and lived to see one of his fondest hopes come true. His son married, and he and his wife had a daughter. There is a poignant photograph of Robert holding his granddaughter, not knowing he was giving her his light. He gave his light to many, and though his light went out, it shines through hundreds of us who Robert loved without reserve. I can feel him now, incandescent. For Robert. We miss him. When I was thinking about Father's Day, I was thinking about another friend of mine who died this past year. Her name was Martha Lou Brock. And Martha Lou and I were co-leaders of a therapy group for many, many years. And it was the first gay and lesbian therapy group in Atlanta, as far as I know. We met in a therapy group ourselves. We were in a group with 2 of the most eminent psychologists of our times, Earl Brown and Earl E. Shepard. And what I remember about that group is that Earl was just this warm, big-hearted human being who just really could embrace, and that Irma Lee was very, very sweet and kind, but she was, on the money. She was on the mark. And the old way that therapy groups were set up was that, you wanted to have a male-female co-leader so that it would approximate the family. And of course, the male would be the father and the female would be the mother. And everybody your siblings. Okay? Well, it just didn't work out that way in the Earl Brothers group. And I met Martha Lou in the group, and she was the only other queer person in the group. And this was back a long time ago when lesbians and gay men didn't get along very well. And the reason for that is that gay men were pretty uneducated when it came to feminism and sexism and all of that. And there was a huge sensitivity in the women's movement. But Martha Lou and I became very good friends, and we would have dinner after group, and we would fantasize about having our own group, which we did. And the thing that was very confusing in our group, which was about half lesbians and half gay men, was that Martha was very, direct and, spoke very clearly and was very challenging at times. And I was the guy they would go put their head on and cry. And so we mixed up gender, and I think that it was a very, very important thing for the people in the group not to know who the mother was or who the father was. And I think that when we think about our own lives and the people who have impacted us, often the mother was the father and the father was the mother, that those terms are relative, those terms are antiquated, they're part of an old gender paradigm that doesn't work anymore. And I think that it's really important as we continue to deconstruct gender and to look at gender as something that is learned, that is culturally created, that is not necessarily natural, that we begin to see that we all need mentors. We all need people to encourage us. None of us, needs to grow up without parents and teachers and people like that. And we must honor, those folks. It's very important to honor our living ancestors. It's very important to honor those ancestors who are on the other side. One of the things I thought I was going to talk about this morning was epigenetics. And I've been using epigenetics in a very colloquial kind of way. And when I went to do my research on epigenetics, I realized that I had not studied genetics. And it is a very, very complex sort of thing. So if there's a geneticist here or someone who's steeped in science, what I say will seem way overly simplified. I'll call it my third grade explanation of epigenetics. But essentially it is that things that happened in the past in our families have an impact, and these are things that may be out of human memory. I come from a very unsophisticated family of farmers who migrated from the British Isles into Appalachia and ended up in Alabama. We don't have a story that is remarkable at all. When I've done my research, all I can find is a few old tombstones. I know names and dates. I don't know anything else. So for me to look at my family history, I have to look at what was it like for people who left the British Isles, moved to the South, went up through Appalachia and down over to Alabama, and take that as the story. And it is a story about struggle and poverty and conflict and poverty. And it helps me make sense of things like why I have to have a full pantry, and why I get neurotic about things breaking down. Because in a farm, if the horse got sick, that was a really big deal. And, it was back before there was much science. Why am I so sensitive about loss? Well, there was tremendous loss. Tremendous loss. You can go into a cemetery and you'll see these spaces in a family grave where there's one child and then another child and then another child, that have all been lost in a short span of time. Women often died in childbirth. There was no antibiotic until the 1970s. So we all get that as part of what we inherit, you know, and the thing that I think that is important about that is to understand it, that we're not just the product of growing up with our parents, that they had parents who had parents, that there was a culture. And, you know, in therapy, I tease and call these things heirloom neuroses. And do you want to keep that, you know, old, you know, nasty chair you inherited from your great Aunt Betty, or would you like to set it out on the curb? And unfortunately, it's not that easy to do. It's also true that, you know, there's some wonderful things that run in families, like musicality, mathematic aptitude, did not run in mine, creativity, athleticism, queerness, runs in families, it does, what a gift. Kindness runs in families. You know, we all get good cards and bad cards. And when you think about what can you do about that, really, one of my teachers, I called her the repetition therapist because she would say things over and over again, because I evidently didn't get it the first time. Her name was Nani Batchelder, and she would say, allow, accept, and appreciate. Allow, accept, and appreciate. You know, you are who you are. You know, and to accept that is really, really important. And to appreciate all the good pieces of it is also important. I think that we also have the ability through mindfulness, through therapy, through, you know, yoga, through community, through many, many, many ways, you know, of changing some of the ways that seem to be set to automatic in us. We can't change who we are, but we can change how we are with who we are. And I think that's a really important thing to remember. You don't have to change who you are, my goodness. Who you are is a miracle. But how you are can be a little neurotic at times, a little off, and so we're always works in progress. We're always working on changing that. I'm 72. You know, I still have some of the same stuff I had when I was 7. And, you know, it's hopefully more amusing than it is annoying at this point. That I can, you know, allow and accept and appreciate that I'm a little bit odd, that I'm a little bit off kilter, that I'm not always, you know, the A student. And that can be okay. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is our parents as prophecy. That if you look at the people who, you know, were your biological parents and you look at how their lives are and have gone, that gives you sort of a sense of how the future might unfold. And I'm probably one of the few 72-year-old people who has a living father. My father will be 96 in August, and my mother lived to be 91, and so I watched that. I lost my last grandparent when I was in my 50s, so I have a sense of coming attractions, and I have a sense of what is down the road. Now, with my dad, there are really 3 components at this point. There's the King Lear component, when he is not lucid. There is a sadness to watch him struggle because he can't do what he once could do. And then there's sort of a sweetness that has emerged, which has been really interesting to experience, because he and I, for a variety of reasons, stopped being close psychologically when I was about 3. Another story for another day. But for us to have, a little bit of sense of closeness and sweetness between us now, after nearly 70 years, is remarkable. And I consider that the gift in having, you know, a parent who has survived. That was true with my mother too, that, you know, she got sweeter as she got older. And maybe that's one of the things that will happen for us as we age, is that hopefully we don't get the King Lear card. Hopefully, you know, we're able to take care of ourselves, which, you know, I think that there are many, many things that we can do to take care of ourselves now. They say you're in your 70s, you're in training for being in your 90s. So, you know, take care of yourself, eat right, exercise, you know, all the stuff that, you know by heart, and then find challenging to do. I'm going to end with a poem about my father called Losing My Father. Nowadays, a call from my brother is not about catching up. It is about our father, now 94 and slowly losing his mind. He goes on tangents that often only last a day, but his latest, and I won't repeat it out of respect, is not just crazy, but diagnostic. When I call my friend, a retired geriatric psychiatrist, he says that Alzheimer's sufferers often get a bee in their brain and it becomes real to them, like biting an apple is real, like watching rainfall is real. And you can't argue with them anymore than someone can argue with you if you believe it is raining. It has the taste and shape of an apple. He suggests sympathy, or a ruse to dispel illusion. All I can hear is Alzheimer's. We have not used that word for what it is. I know it is not good news about the future. I know it is only trouble, suffering, and hard decisions. I know I do not want my father to lose his mind, but he is losing his mind, and I am losing my father. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be here with such wonderful people in such a beautiful place. Thank you.
I'm always touched by what you have to bring to us. You always bring something that makes me think. And Lord knows I need that. I had an announcement that Andy had brought to me, but Andy, somehow I have misplaced it on this small little podium. But I'll ask it, shall we do? I wanted to let you know that since we have acquired these awesome new chairs and cushions, we also now have some of the green chairs that we used to have that we were generously donated to us by Bonnie and Mark Ramlich back after the Olympics here in Atlanta. But these chairs have lived their wonderful life purpose for us, and there are about 25 or so that are available. If you would like to take one or two or more, they're marked with a piece of tape. So feel free to take one or two or three or whatever. And if you have any questions, you can see Bill Reed. The tall guy there, yeah, Bill Reed and Andy, so after the service. Also, please remember that we are having our kiddish after the service, and if you would kindly help to take chairs and tables out to the side yard, that would be great. In fact, I think, wouldn't it be good to take the green chairs out instead of taking our new chairs?
Yeah.
All right. I think that would be great. Okay. I'm going to have read one final statement, and then we'll have a closing congregational song, and then I will bid you to have a wonderful week, but please, I hope you'll stay and enjoy having communion with us at Kiddush. I think the best thing we can do for our children is to allow them to do things for themselves. Allow them to be strong. Allow them to experience life on their own terms. Let them be better people. Let them believe more in themselves.
Yeah.
Somehow or other, I cut off the person who said that, but those are great words. And I will say one other thing about my father. When I was in college, my father found out I was gay, and he threw me out of the house. He said, "Get out." But that wasn't the end of the story, because he and I became actually closer after years of repairing that relationship. And so go back to what Mark Twain said about, learning, that you and your parent both, can learn that you both grow and change. And please appreciate that. Happy Father's Day to all of the... Will the fathers please stand and let us give you an accolade? Fathers, please. Thank you, Father. It's wonderful that you are here with us today. So, now our closing song will be?
In the Pink Song book, the original one, page 81, Walk in the Light. Jeannie told me that this was one of Robert Stewart's favorite songs. So. There's a light, and it says not too fast, so we're going to go. There's a light that was shining when the world began, and a light that is shining in the heart of a man. There's a light that is shining in the dirt and the shoe, and a light that is shining in me and you. Walk in the light wherever you may be. Walk in the light wherever you may be. In my old leather breeches and my baggy shiny rock, I am walking in the glory of the light. Set off. With the book and steeple, with the bell and key, they will find it forever. Nothing can say he. Oh, the book, it will perish, and the steeple will fall. The light will be shining at the end of it all. Walk in the light wherever you may be. Walk in the light wherever you may be. In my old leather breeches light. I am walking in the glory of the light. Steadfast. There's an ocean of darkness that I found in the night, till I came through the darkness to the ocean of light. And the light is forever, and the light will be free, and I'll walk in the glory of the light. Set free. Walk in the light wherever you may be. Walk in the light wherever you may be. In my old leather breeches and my shaggy, shaggy locks, I am walking in the glory of the light. Set up.
Thank you all for coming today. It would be great if you would help by picking up the song books and the cushions and musical instruments and help to take those to the back. And those who are willing and able to take some of the green chairs out on the table to the side. And please join us for Kitty. Carpe diem. Have a great week.